We're live on Zoom now. Thank you for joining our virtual office hour for the FPF Resilience webinar series. The FPF Resilience webinar series has been developed to continue our work to enhance the business and entrepreneurial skills of Native artists and cultural bearers, as well as expand our virtual community during these rapidly changing times. This bi-weekly webinar series, First Peoples Fund, and our nationally recognized Native Arts Professional Development, or NAPD trainers, will deliver values-based, topic-focused webinars on Mondays, following by technical assistance, TA office hours today on Wednesdays, to follow up on and answer any questions regarding the Monday webinar. This is our last webinar for the month of May. So Tanaya is going to take us out with a bang, so to speak, with her performing arts background. But starting next month in June, we do have some amazing presenters focusing on things. For example, we will be having Ben Sherman focusing on business planning on June 1st and 3rd. We have Koloku Holt 2 weeks later, I'm focusing on the performing arts and negotiation. And then final week in June, we will be having Robert Martinez focus on marketing. You can find all that information on our in the future with Facebook posts, but as well as our FPF website, our registration page for workshops, which I will share those links in Facebook Live as well as in our Zoom chat box for more information. Some future virtual events coming up through FPF is the Rolling Res Arts. The program is excited to kick off the first events of its virtual art celebration. The Rolling Res Arts program is dedicated to bringing folks from Indian country and surrounding communities the expertise and disciplines of artists within the First Peoples Fund family. There is one coming up this weekend, and this is going to be really great, everybody. If you're able to make it, I highly recommend it. It'll be Saturday, May 23rd with the Michael Toobles. It will be a live event on Facebook Live, and Michael Toobles' focus is going to be printmaking demonstration on cyanotype. And also an extra awesome treat to this is that there will be a live event will open with a performance by a very special guest. So definitely tune in. You can find that information on our Facebook page as well as our website, again, where the registration link is for community workshops. Doing a little bit of housekeeping before we jump right in and let Tanaya take over is that this is a recorded webinar which will be available within 48 hours concluding the session. I will also share links where you can find it through our FPF resource library as well as our YouTube playlist page, as well as on Facebook as a third option. Please keep yourself mute if you're on the Zoom call. And this will be pretty much kind of an open casual office hour with Tanaya focusing on what she shared as well as on Monday, as well as answering any questions that we do get from Facebook Live comments to our Zoom Q&A questions. And I will be the one collecting that information, and when she pauses with given information, I will share those questions with her and she'll answer them. Again, this is just an hour versus our Monday hour and a half, so we are excited that you're here. I also will be sharing a survey monkey for people in the Zoom chat as well as Facebook Live, because here at FPF we would love your input on our virtual programming. So if you have a couple minutes, please click on the link that I'll share in a moment and give us your feedback, because we would love to hear it. So I guess, let me see here. Yeah, so without further ado, I am so excited to present yet again Tanaya Winder from the Duckwater Shoshone, Pyramid Lake Paiute, and Southern Ute Indian Nations on cultivating your online presence during a pandemic during her virtual office hour. So thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tanaya. I'm enrolled Duckwater Shoshone. I'm also Southern Ute and Pyramid Lake Paiute. I grew up on the Southern Ute Reservation in Southern Colorado. I'm excited to be here with you all again today. So before I kind of just recap, I would love to just, if anybody has any questions off the bat, feel free to type them on the chat, and Hillary can help me facilitate if I have any questions. So I thought I would just open it like that in case anybody has any burning questions before I recap.
This is Hillary. Currently, we just got one from Sylvia through Zoom. Could you cover the website section that was skipped over last session?
Sure, let's do it. So, all right, are you seeing it, Hillary?
Yes, I am seeing it
Okay.
on your presentation, the Squarespace, Wix, and WordPress.
Oh, wait, I think okay.
And
All
I
right.
see all the slides.
Okay. All right. So I'm not an expert at websites, but I'm a very DIY kind of person. So I've heard, I guess it just depends on kind of probably your learning style, which platform would work well for you. So I would suggest just playing around on them on Squarespace and Wix, because you can get free versions as well as WordPress. Take out my headphones for that part. But I'll show you kind of just what my website looks like. And mine is not like an example of this is the best website, because everything can always be improved and we're always learning. I started with a blog back in the day before I even had any followers, and I would write these anonymous posts. But right now, I'll just show you kind of where my website is at now.
So I do want to talk a little bit about having a website. There's lots of different platforms you can use, Squarespace, Wix. I like WordPress just because that's what I've done. I also feel like it is pretty intuitive as well. I think every artist needs a website that can just hold and house all of your content. So here's an example of mine. You can click on there for my biography. You can like listen to a song. It's not like the best template. Sometimes I'll just change it around, but you can click on about, that has about me. I try to include press, like where any article that's been written about me, so people can have it. Services, so I just like include an overview of what I can provide. Always try to embed like pictures of work that you've done. And I list my workshops, that way when people are like, what can you do? I can just say, here, go pick something from my menu. What kind of workshop do you want? I'll list like motivational topics, like talks I've done, things that I'm comfortable talking on. So that way, again, like anytime you're putting stuff online, it's telling a story about yourself. People will buy into you, not your product. They want you as a person. So what do you do? What do you offer? So I think putting those things out there just helps reinforce that as well. Like, I can talk about publishing. I can talk about working with youth. I can talk about writing as a tool for healing. Put those things on there. Put examples of your previous talks so people can say, oh, I saw you talk about like overcoming struggles. Can you talk about this and that? And then I also just put like different examples online of my work, directing people to my YouTube channel. Anytime you can connect things together. All of these are hyperlinks to different poems I've done on YouTube. Writing, different places I've been published as well. I put those things. And then how to contact you, your Twitter, your Instagrams, they can follow you on other platforms, booking. You can even like create a form to embed a form, so that way I've had people contact me this way as well, and then it just gets sent to my email. You can put merch on there, and all directs like to my Bandcamp or different things like that. Or then support, if people want to support. I know like a lot of people now online, like they'll put like their money links, their PayPal links, how people can be a Patreon, how people can be patrons. But yeah, I think every artist having a website is super important.
And another reason why I like the websites is it's almost like another place to just have your artist resume. Like you just put it all on there together. You have, you know, how to contact you. You have the past work that you've done. And it's almost like casting a net, like doing all of these different social media, like cultivating your online presence. It's just the more things you do, the wider net you're going to cast, and you never know like what you're going to get. You know, I've had like maybe 1 or 2 people just randomly email me like, I want to donate, or somebody sent me something on PayPal, like, thank you for the work you do. And, you know, it's different from Patreon because that doesn't happen all the time. It's not like a monthly thing people do, but you just never know like who's going to find you and want to support what you're doing.
So I do want to talk a little bit about having a website. There's lots of different. So I wanted to just show you guys just a little bit about how to play around on things. So I had created this a while back ago when I was trying to just unite women, Indigenous women poets. It's just a very basic site template. So when you want to edit it, just go to your home. It'll tell you if you want to, I'm on the free plan right now, but you can upgrade. It shows you how to just create like your different pages. It's pretty, like I said, it's pretty intuitive. If you know HTML, like you can do the coding, but if not, you know, it's just as simple as like typing in the words. And then what's neat about WordPress now is it has these different things that are blocks. You can add content there. If you wanted to add like a free photo library, a contact form, media, like it helps you add those different things. But that's just one example. You can preview it to just see what it looks like with the changes you've made. So that's what I like about this too, is that you're always able to preview it before you update. So let's close that. I don't want to save those changes. But let's say like you don't like that, you know, you don't like the format of it anymore. When you're creating your online website, you know, you can just go to design. You can look at the themes. Like WordPress has all of these different themes that you can use. A lot of them are free. You know, if you want to highlight a photo and see like the information on the top. And I believe that it allows you to preview those things as well. Like let's say I want to switch to this rock field one. Activate this design free. Then I'll say yes, let me activate it. Let me see what it looks like. And then I'll say view the site. So then now you can see how it put the backbone words up there. It put that quote from Lucy Tapahanzo up there. And then now it's kind of yours to play with and edit. So then you would just go, all right, edit homepage. And then now you can see, maybe I don't want it to say food experience. I want it to say enjoy our music and poetry. Welcome. Thanks for supporting us. Check out our album. Again, if you want to preview it. So that's how I think, you know, WordPress is pretty simple in that way. Like you can switch around the themes, you can play with the colors. So I'll close and accept. Cancel, close. Let's say I'm going to update it. And then you can just play around with even more things. You know, let me go back, close that. Okay. I'm trying to find, okay, see, sometimes it's just hard to see edit. But yeah, I'll say restore what I did. But if you don't like the color of things, like you just change it. Oh, I want it to be blue. Try purple, update it. But yeah, I would say that it's very intuitive, and it just gives you more control over how you're sharing yourself as an artist. So I would encourage you to try WordPress. It also allows you to see like what it looks like on a phone, on different types of screen.
So I definitely like am not the most tech savvy person, but just if you get in there and you play around on those websites, I think it's just great like what you'll be able to learn and teach yourself doing that. Let me see. Does anyone have any other questions?
I do have a question. Let me see. It's like, what are some realistic goals for performing artists right now for the rest of the year in 2020 with the limitations due to the pandemic?
I think it's interesting to navigate. If you have control issues like me, I think it's particularly hard too, because you have to just be willing to adapt to change. You know, for instance, I just got a message earlier today about inviting me to come perform and do a workshop in September. And I had just assumed it was going to be virtual. I said, this virtual? So they said, no, we're planning for in person. So I feel like a lot of decisions are going to have to be made. Like if people make everything virtual, if some people are trying to go back to normal, do you want to put yourself at risk, like in getting on a plane and flying somewhere? But for me, like I've always been the type of person to have plan A, B, all the way down to Z. Z is my most extreme version of what would happen, but I think it's good to have kind of backup plans. And I still think like right now is an important time to lay that foundation. Like if you are in a space where you can do some things pro bono, I do think it's worth it to reach out to places to see if they have opportunities where you could connect with their students. And also like just putting together like the artist resume and other things first and just reaching out to different people. Like some universities are having major budget cuts right now, so they might not be able to do those things, but some places, people who have gotten grants, maybe they still have money they need to spend down, so you could reach out. And I think the best thing is to not just sit and wait and see if people will reach out to you, but you reach out to people, like whatever state you're in, look at the colleges, look at like the Title IX programs, look at the schools, see if they have, like just email, say, hey, like I know, like I don't know if your students need a break from just like virtual learning, but I can do a workshop on like making flutes, or I can do a workshop on beading. Can you use grant funds to send supplies to the students and I'll lead a Zoom session? Or I would love to do like 4 poetry workshops, and then at the end, like host a virtual open mic where I can perform, the students can share their pieces. Like I think it's worth it to reach out now, especially like, you know, I think it's good for students to have, as someone who works with kids, I think it's good for students to have schedules, to have structure, especially when so much is up in the air. Like people need something tangible to hold on to look forward to. And if we as artists can help provide that, again, if you're finding people who maybe people you know or trust, or people you know who will take seriously this time you might be investing now, I do think that that does come back later, and hopefully when they do have funds they can pay you to do things. But I think that's one thing you could do. And I've seen like just a lot of different grant opportunities going around as well for us as artists that we could apply for, and then we can provide maybe some programming for free for people. But I think planning for anything and everything is kind of where we're at right now. And you never know, like if you start now doing virtual performances and invite different people, like collaborate, like maybe it will have more traction by the time schools start up again this fall.
I guess to kind of go along with, you know, the outreach, and, you know, that you just mentioned that you've been reached out personally to do an event in person in September. And for those that are kind of new to contracts and signing agreements, or, you know, letters of agreement, etc., for say, for example, you accept it's in person, but then they're like a month out and yes, still the pandemic might be an issue and they cancel. As a performing artist, I guess my question would be, would you request like additions to your contract to have some kind of financial support if the event is canceled due to the pandemic? Like, would you do something like that, or suggest other artists protect themselves that way? Or are there resources like that for people?
Yeah, so again, it's going to be a mix. Like some places, like for instance, the university I work at, like we can't put down deposits. So if you're working with a university, it might be more strict. But if you're working with a private organization, like you can, and I would suggest now, like putting in your contract to pay a deposit ahead of time. And then, like then you, like sometimes the language changes, like you're responsible for, like, let's say it did happen, it didn't get canceled, but you didn't show up, you might have to pay back that deposit. But I do think that contracts, you can put like a sickness clause if you're like, you'll let them know more than 30 days ahead or how soon in advance you want to know about if there are cancellations, and put in there like if it is canceled, like maybe that they'll work hard to try to do a virtual event. Because in my own experience this past year, one place was really awesome and they gave me and my artists a 50% deposit, even though that wasn't what was in the contract, but just because everything was happening and people were counting on that money, they were willing to work with us. And then other places, it was just like, nope, like too bad. Some did switch to virtual. The honorariums did stay the same. Some they just postponed and said like, okay, you can still be the performer, you can still be the keynote when we redo it. Hopefully it'll be available then. So I would say, like, I feel like now that people are really compassionate and understanding, and if you draft the contract or if they have the contract, I feel like most people are willing to like, okay, let's sit down and go over your contract and look at it and make suggestions. But you can always reach out to, I would say you could reach out to me if you have questions as well. Like if you do have contracts and you want somebody to look over it, or try to find other free like legal resources as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Currently, we do not have any other questions at the moment, so feel free to move forward with whatever you want to share.
Cool. Maybe I'll just go over my presentation again for people who didn't get to see it. Let me start. I guess just to kind of recap, and maybe I won't even like have it in that mode. Hold on one second. Okay. So I'm not going to have it in the presentation mode. I just wanted to kind of recap what I had talked about using this time to cultivate your online presence during a pandemic. And I also want to say too, like, I know everybody's handling this pandemic in different ways, right? Like some people, like if you've seen those memes going around where it's like, I lost 20 pounds, I'm in the best shape of my life. It's like, this isn't my status, but it's someone else, I'm proud of them. Like, some people are using it for that. Some people just don't have time. Like if you're teaching and a parent and all these other obligations, I don't have children of my own, but like, it's still a stressful time. Like I've been kicking myself for not being more, I guess, productive during the pandemic. Like I haven't updated my website or my artist resume. Things I'm telling you guys to do, I have not yet done myself. But I think it's important to just like kind of evaluate and take that time and like maybe just meditate and pray on like, what are your intentions? Like, what do you have time for? I'm a big believer in to-do lists, and having just kind of like a goal and timeline set out for yourself, which is part of like near the end of this presentation as well. But again, just like now I think this time's really making us focus on like what really actually matters, like what relationships, what passions. I think it's just put a lot of different things in perspective. So I think coming back to those questions about what motivates you and like why you want to do what you do, like, and thinking too, like if this is the new normal and things have to be virtual, do I still want to be a performer? Like, do I need to kind of, rearrange my room so I have a good setup? Like, do I need to invest in a backdrop? Like, do I need to practice more performing online because, people can experience my same glow when I'm not in person, like you can. I think it's a good time to just practice and reflect on those things, like how, if you do want to keep moving forward in this way because you were born to do this, like how can you still convey your passion? How can you still like get out there? And doing your social media presence, your online presence, is just one way to do that. It's just one way to do that. You don't have to have, the goal doesn't have to be having 100 patrons. It doesn't have to be having 20,000 followers. It could just be the time that you find like the 200 people or the 2,000 people who really support you and connect with your why and what you're doing. And I also think like, with my own, like one of my other like jobs, like we'll do all of these things. We'll try to come up with all these presentations. And let's say we have 100 kids and 5 show up. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's never like, man, we're failures. That's an awesome 5 people who needed this, who are supposed to be here, showed up, and that's something. And that's how I like the mindset I want to have. And I encourage you all to have when it comes to creating your online presence, because maybe you're not going to get 10 new followers. Maybe you're just going to get 1, but at least you're trying something. You're casting your net and you're learning new skills. You're learning how to market yourself. You're learning like, what medium works best for what you're doing. Because maybe you don't want to be on all mediums. Maybe you do. Maybe there are ways to connect your apps, so if you post on Facebook, it goes to your Twitter, it goes to your Instagram, and vice versa. And maybe after all of this, it's kind of just like gathering data, seeing what works best for you. Maybe then, you just want to post on Facebook, not do time on the other ones, and like, and just let it like sync. Or there are apps too, like Hootsuite, that connect all of them, where you can just log into one thing and you can update all of your profiles. So that's one thing I would suggest as well, because sometimes like I'll do tests, like I'll post one thing on Facebook, then I'll post the same thing on Twitter, and it will get a lot of love on Facebook and no love on Twitter, or like vice versa. Sometimes what I post on Twitter doesn't like fit on Facebook. So it's good to kind of figure out too, like if you have a following, who are your followers? What kind of content do they look to you for? On Twitter, you can do polls as well. I've seen one person who had a good following. She asked like, and she kind of does a lot of things like what I do too. So she was just like, how did you find out about me? Was it through this? Was it through this? Or was it through that? So it's interesting just to see like, how people learned about you, and what was their like entry point into you. So I think it's important to, again, just ground ourselves in the why, or else like it's so easy to get lost in all of this. And all of these platforms I feel like are great tools. Like they're all your tools, and you can choose which ones you want to use, how you want to use them. But I think it'll be easier going if you ground yourself in your values and your why. Because like I had said in the talk, like you are entering the arena. You're entering this arena of like, you're getting down in like the dirt and the muck of it all. And it's so hard. Like we already have like our own internal voice, or at least I have my internal voice sometimes that says, you're not good enough. Like, why are you doing this? Like, who cares, And so fighting that internal voice takes a lot of energy, but when you're entering like social media, it opens it up to other people, like perhaps saying unhealthy things to you. And that's why in Monday's talk, I grounded us with this Brene Brown talk, The Call to Courage, on Netflix, if you want to watch it. Because she talks about that, some of us say that, oh, I don't care what people think, but we all do. Like we're hardwired, like we're neurologically wired to care what other people think. But what we have to do is focus on, we can't ever say we don't care what anybody thinks. We just care what some people think. And some people, like that's your circle, like that's people you trust, who can tell you if you need to improve, or can put you in check and hold you accountable if you need it. But that's what she was saying in her talk, like it's not the critic who counts. So when you're getting on social media, especially there's even a lot of unhealthiness online right now, like there's people bombing Zoom talks, there's people doing things like that. So like, it's just prepare yourself that there might be some people who are trolls. They're just literally out there to try to say negative things about you. And you have to remember that it's not their opinion who matters. It's, you know, who matters, and the other people who are out there like getting dirty in the arena with the blood, sweat, and tears of this work, like that's who matters. And it's hard, like it's a vulnerable place to share who you are. I feel like our whole lives are spent figuring out more of who we are and standing and knowing who you are and knowing your worth, and then sharing some of that online. You know, it is a vulnerable process, but to remember, like, you know, to throw out that fear, throw out that shame, because you're never gonna like learn, or you're never gonna do it until you get out there and do it. And I don't think any of us wants to get to the end of our lives thinking like, man, if only I had done this, or if only I had done that, like maybe my life would be like this. Like, I don't think anybody wants to live with that regret. And I think putting yourself out there is tough, but I think it's important for the work that we're all called to do as performers. And so, and to make sure like you're sharing what's appropriate, you know, like sharing, I always tell like my staff to make sure you're sharing in service of the students and not in service of yourself. And I think the same goes for us as performers, like that we're sharing in service of our audience and not like using our performance as therapy for things we haven't really like worked on yet, because you never want to traumatize, you know, your audience. You always want to leave them feeling in a good place. And that's not to say that you can't share hard things, you can't share traumas you've overcome, but just make sure that you're on the other side of it. And to be kind to yourself. Like, I think it's so easy to compare yourself with other people. One of my like artist sisters, Lila June, described it to me this way one time, like when we were talking about just like this monster of jealousy, you know, and she said it's like going into Baskin Robbins, you know, like there's 31 flavors, but maybe somebody's Rocky Road and somebody's that mint chocolate chip. It doesn't mean mint chocolate chip is better than Rocky Road. Like, some people just have different tastes for the different flavors. And so I think that can apply to us as artists as well. You know, like people have different flavors. We're different flavors and people have different tastes. So once you know like your flavor and you know your vibe, stand tall in it. Like this quote says, you can either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. So I just hope that everybody watching knows that you are worthy and you just need to own your story. And we're here to help you figure out how to tell your story on these different platforms that is beneficial to you and the people who would benefit from hearing your story, hearing your music, knowing your art, and knowing you as a person. Last time I had shared this anecdote about this person wanting to support me, or it was telling me that I was going to be supported, and this was like over a decade ago, telling me that I was going to be supported not because of what I did, but because of who I am. And for me, I think it's hard to not get those things tied up, like, because I am kind of a workaholic. It's like, I am my work, I am what I do, but no, like you can strip those things away, figure out what your why is and who you are, and find people who believe what you believe, because those are going to be the people who might be loyal fans. If you write another book, they don't even want to know what it's about. They'll just buy it because it's you. Or another album, like maybe you've only shared one song or a snippet of a song, or maybe you didn't share any of it, but because they like you and they like your work, they'll continue to support you. And I think now is a good time to maybe reintroduce who we all are using social media for those things. I had gone over Canva. I love Canva. And I'm not a graphic designer, but there's just so much you can do. Instagram, like just interacting with people. And after time, you'll see like what kind of posts of yours get likes or get interaction or get shares. And then sometimes just, you know, doing what makes you happy. Like, I think we don't ever want like social media to feel like a job, or to being online to feel like a job, but to be something that also brings you joy. You know, like it brings you joy to share like this song on Instagram Live, or it brings you joy to like do a workshop on Zoom where you can share like some of your skills and talents that you have. And again, like just another source of income is thinking if you can put all that support onto Patreon, like how can you get people to support you in different ways. Like these other artists have done website, just a good way to consolidate your information, because, you know, I feel like different age groups are on different mediums. So, you know, maybe there are people who don't want social media, but, you know, they want to stay off the grid and they just look up your website and that's how they contact you. Like, you just never know. And that's something to do too. Like maybe when you do get booked or people do reach out to you, I think as artists, we don't really think about like our own assessments, you know, like how FPF is sending out this survey after this workshop because they want to know what you liked, what could be improved, like what do you want to see more of. Like, I think as artists, we should do that as well. You know, we should say, great, I'm excited to learn more about this opportunity you're wanting to book me for. And then you can say, can I ask, how did you hear about me? And then just start keeping track of those things. Then you'll see like, okay, most people are hearing about me on Instagram and not Twitter. I'm going to redirect more of my energy to doing my Instagram because that's how people are finding me. Like you can do those things. And after these virtual workshops too, you know, I would also encourage you to start, when you do your own virtual workshops or presentations or performances, send out a poll too, like send out a survey to the organizers or something, get feedback on what you're doing, what people liked, because all that is stuff, testimony that can go on your website, that can go on your social media. That way it says this, you know, people can say, when I see a performance by this person, know that you're gonna like leave with your jaw on the floor, know that you're gonna feel felt, know that you're gonna feel seen. So that's something to work up to too. And then you can put those testimonials in your electronic press kit, like testimonies, reviews, things people are saying about so-and-so. Yeah, and just work on those goals. You know, I think having deadlines and timelines helps, but to be kind with yourself when you don't do those things. Just say like, you know, if I can leave this workshop having done one of these things, like I'm gonna do it. And just work on finding partners. You know, like I had highlighted these ones, the virtual stay-at-home series from the Indigenous Peoples Art Gallery and Cafe, Native America Kana Audio Cafe, Indigenous Ways, they're doing virtual concerts. And now, you know, we're in an opportunity where you could watch all of those virtual concerts and pick up little tips, like see how other people are performing virtually and add that to your performers' toolbox as well. I'll stop sharing again to see if we have any questions.
Do have a question. So when you're going through a funk, you know, especially during times of social distancing, what do you do as like in the arts and as an artist that connect you back to yourself, like AKA self-care as an artist during these, you know, kind of low times that people can get themselves in because of things like social distancing?
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I never have like a go-to, but I kind of have just been trusting like my gut. So the other day I was really overwhelmed and stressed out, actually after I gave this workshop, because I felt vulnerable putting myself out there. And I was just like, did I do good? Did I do bad? Do people like it? So I actually just called my sister because I was sad. I was like, if my baby nephew was here, I could just go hold my nephew and just think about him in the future and wanting to build like a safe world for him. But I just like did the video chat with them for like an hour and just like spending time with him, that helped like ground me and calm me down. I also really like 80s playlists on Spotify, and I'll kind of do my own lip sync challenges. I watch a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race because I feel like that act of like putting yourself in drag like changes you, you transform, you get like more confidence. So I'm trying to figure out like, how can I like do that to myself, like that transformation. So one thing they do on that show is lip sync challenges. So I'll just like put on a song I like, whether it's an embarrassing song or not, and I'll just sing it. Like I'll lip sync, I'll dance it out real crazy. Sometimes I have like music and songs can really send me on a memory trip back to like certain times. So sometimes I'll just listen to songs I know will trigger a certain memory, and that like reminds me like why I do what I do or why I'm doing what I do. One thing too, like for people, one thing I've started doing is when people do email me good feedback or like, thank you for doing XYZ, I have like a folder, like a subfolder in my Gmail that's called When You Need Inspiration. And so I've had this collecting for like a decade now. So whenever I need to like feel grounded in myself again, sometimes I read that just to like help me remember, okay, like I see why it counts. But most importantly, what I don't do enough of and what I need to do more of is just grounding myself in prayer, like just smudging and just like praying, like to be reminded of my purpose, that I can help who I'm meant to help, and whoever is meant to help me can help me. And then just doing it. Like sometimes it's kind of like exercise too. Like I don't ever want to go out and do a run sometimes, but I know after I come back, I'm going to feel awesome. And the same thing with music. Like my guitar is just like sitting right back there. And then some days I'm like, okay, I know you're tired, but just pick it up. And as soon as like I just start playing with it, like time goes by and I feel grounded again.
Well, thank you for sharing. And I definitely am one of those people that goes for walks or jogs if my foot's letting me, if it's a good day. But I definitely don't have skill in the world of singing, but I could probably join you virtually someday to do some like RuPaul Drag Race, like lip sync battle. That would be cool.
Oh yeah. Lip syncing can be way more fun than singing. Cause like if you're a singer, it's like you want to sound good, or I don't know. I feel like you can do more fun moves if you're not singing, because I don't perform like that. When I really perform, I just sit there and do it. So it's fun to lip sync.
Yeah. No, well, thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable and open enough to give that, because I know a lot of people are in the same position you are, and not being able to reach out to family, but having that FaceTime and having other outlets when you can't be connected physically with people you love and care about during a difficult time. You really have to get creative. And just so you know, everybody, the positive feedback was amazing, yes, on Monday for yours. So I learned something for sure. So if that makes you just to reiterate, it was a pretty awesome webinar, and I highly suggest anybody that's listening on Facebook and on Zoom to check out our YouTube page and the links that I shared, as well as even our Facebook page, to watch Tanaya just rock it. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, I do not see any questions on Facebook Live or in the Zoom chat box, so feel free to move on to the next section you just wanted to chat about.
Sure. I think I kind of went over everything. I guess just another tip I could say is just I think some artists I've met along the way and have worked with, like I think just know, like just believe in yourself and have confidence, and know that you can reach out if you need help. I think sometimes some of the things I ask, like, hey, can you do this or that, people will think I'm not smart enough to do that, or I don't know how to do that. But the crazy thing is, like, I never feel smart enough to do it either. And I didn't know how to do it until I did it and did the like trial by fire. So if you're like motivated and you're like, I do want to reach out to places, what do I do? Like, just, you just have to think about, okay, this is like, and it's a good practice, like if you just use this time to say, I'm going to market myself and I'm reach out to someone, this is my purpose. My purpose is to share like songwriting techniques, share poetry writing techniques. My audience, this could work for 9th grade to high school. I can adapt it if needed, or this is for all ages. And then what are the outcomes, because for people who are doing these grants, everybody's overwhelmed right now. So if you present something like put together, that makes it easier on them. They might be more willing to book you. Like, so you had your purpose, you had your audience, and then what are my outcomes? My outcome is that, or what's my objective? My objective is to teach poetry writing to participants. What's my outcome? By the end of the workshop or webinar, each participant will have drafted a full poem, or each person will know what a hook is or where a hook should come in a song. And so I think like getting your stuff together like that, and just thinking through it, it's kind of like backwards planning, like thinking through the end and thinking through the steps. I think that will help like with bookings as well, because people will have like, they're all stressed and overwhelmed. They don't want to have to come up with that to meet their grant. Like if you're helping meet them halfway, I think that will help make other people's jobs easier as well. So that's just another tip I have when you're trying to come up with like workshops that you would want to do. And again, like not being afraid to partner with people. Like if you see somebody who's done something that you like, maybe ask if they want to partner. If you know somebody who kind of has the same audience that you have, or like the audience you want, like ask them if they want to partner with you and maybe do a webinar or do a workshop and split up the load, you know, say, hey, if I plan it, like, can you help promote, and we'll see what happens. So that's another tip I have. Any more questions?
I do not see any at the moment.
Okay, because I kind of went through the whole.
Well, I guess if you'd like to share, because I know we only have a few more minutes left before our session is done, but I guess what is your plan as an artist for the rest of the year, or your summer plans to keep yourself motivated and moving forward? I know you shared a couple things on and off, but yeah, like even if it's professionally or personally, because you know you have this extra time, like you were stating earlier, is there something that you're really looking forward to doing?
So one thing I was working on before is trying to work on my first album with an audio engineer and producer that lives near me. And he's super talented. And so we've kind of had to put things on the back burner just because we can't get into the studio to record. So I've been kind of just trying to percolate, like just write different lyrics. And I rarely, unless inspiration hits me, I rarely write a song all at once. Although when I first started, it was easier to do it like that. But I'll just put little lines, you know, even if it's just once a day, like something that is a line I would want to use, or something I would want to write a song about. But I think for me, I'm actually going to be switching gears. I feel like when I first started, poetry was what helped me get more on the scene, build an audience. And then my path kind of took me to music, which I love, which I want to keep performing. But I think for me, I'm trying to use this time to get back to basics. I think I've been so overwhelmed with work. Like I perform when I'm asked to perform, but I'm definitely not singing every day. I'm not practicing every day. So I think I want to just focus on like singing every day. There's free like voice lessons and warm-ups on YouTube you can do, like just practicing a guitar. I might start taking virtual guitar lessons again, just because I need kind of that accountability. Like, all right, I paid $15 for this session, so I need to show up. But I'm actually going to be also just focusing more on poetry, because poetry helps me really just like get into a different space, and I haven't really taken the time to write poetry as intentionally as I did. So that's like my personal goal, is to work on my next book and have it done by November, which means I'm going to have to start writing every day.
And how do you keep yourself motivated by meeting that goal?
I don't know. I think having a supportive partner helps, because then sometimes I just want to sit out there and watch TV, and he's like, but you said you wanted to do this and I love you, so I'm reminding you. Then I'm like, all right, okay, I did want to do this. I do want to do this. Let me do it. One thing I've started doing too is I've just kind of been writing little quotes and putting them different places in my apartment. So that way when I see it, it like just makes me remember like what's my end goal and like what's at stake. If I did do this or if I didn't do this. So I think that's so far kind of what I'm doing. And I need to just have a better routine, because like I was saying, how it helps with the students, I think it helps us too, just because so much is in flux right now. So I live and die by my Google Calendar. So I'm going to just have to put in there like 1 hour writing session, 2 hour writing session, and like stick to it and make sure like I know that's my me time, that's my self-care time, and I'm not going to schedule anything that conflicts with that. You know, if friends want to Zoom or people want to talk, like I'll know on my calendar it says like I'm busy right there because I'm doing the self-care.
Yeah, that's really smart, wise words. And I know it's always easier said than done. And I also live and die by my Google Calendar. So it really is helpful. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Looks like we still do not have any new questions in Facebook Live or within Zoom. So I guess if you would like to just close out your presentation and we can finish the session, the virtual office hour for today.
Okay, great. Thank you all for like sharing space with me, for tuning in, for listening. I hope you learned something. If you have tips like, oh, did you know X, Y, and Z? I'm happy to hear all of those things too. I know I'm still learning. And if you have ideas or things you want to run by me, even after this, like you can feel free to email me. Give me like at least a week to respond, 5 to 7 days. But I like wish you all the best of luck. Like we are all different flavors, you know, and there's room for all of us like to rise and support each other and to share who we are. And, you know, there's never been able to be a big like Indigenous concert. Like there's things that have happened like the Black Hills Unity, the Resilience one, but maybe we should just do a big virtual like Indigenous performance, or like, you know, I know Denver's does like a 24-hour streaming. It'd be cool if somebody wants to do that for like Indigenous artists. So thank you all for your time, and I appreciate you all, and you and your art and your voices are powerful. So thank you.
Wonderful words to end a pretty amazing webinar week with Tanaya. Thank you so much for your time and your sharing, and keep in touch. We are looking forward to what you're going to be creating and sharing with the rest of the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Thank you, Facebook viewers, for joining us for this virtual office hour. And thanks to Tanaya again for her subject matter expertise. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Goodbye.